Vince, your voice has changed.
It's now 6:31 p.m. I would like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on the 7th day of June, 2022. I ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you please lead us?
Thank you, sir. Lord, we are meeting here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon these activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. And as always, we thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark, as always, thanks. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Cutter,
Present.
Kruger's present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal,
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have a full board.
Thanks, Bob. All right, I'd also like to note for the record that our attorney, Jack Belzer, our operations manager, Tom Broker, our zoning administrator, Mike Deem, and our fire chief, Foltz, is present here tonight. Also, we have additionally on Zoom, is Ellen? Is that Ellen?
Alan's
Dark?
backlit, so.
Oh, Alan's backlit, all right. Our township engineers, Ellen and Melissa Lawrence, and is Julia there?
Yep.
Yes. And our township assessor, Julia. Tom, you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting.
Yes, to the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised this meeting is being recorded to be shown on Public Access TV, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed, at which time further instruction will be given. For tonight's meeting, there are two public hearings, one for the Miller Industries PUD amendment and a second for the Fairways of Spring Meadows PUD amendment, during which public comment will be allowed. All other public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the township's website at www.fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business of order is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes, Cutter,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, the agenda stands approved as presented. Next business in order is the meeting minutes. Included in the packet are the meeting minutes for the May 24th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to the meeting minutes? All right, hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to the next business in order, which is expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? All right, hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $424,791.27 for payment.
So moved. Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
I vote yes, Cutter,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. Moving on to the next business order, which is public hearings. This is rezoning number R22-002, Miller Industries, parcel number 06-03-200-038. Revised PUD conditions, public hearing, and ordinance introduction. Our township zoning administrator, Mike Dean, will you please come up and review?
So the township received a site plan for the expansion of Miller Industries over on Thompson Road. Came in before the moratorium was passed by the township board, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. The existing property is under a planned unit development, and there were a couple conditions on there that needed to be addressed based on the request for this expansion. Namely, that no parking areas shall front Thompson Road. For those of you that have seen the addition, it's a rather large addition. Due to the constraints of the property, due to the wetlands, on site. It limits the location where parking can go. Planning Commission held 2 meetings to discuss the site plan and discuss the planned unit development ordinance. And what you have in front of you is a recommendation to amend the ordinance with some new conditions on there. The first new condition is that the Planning Commission shall determine the required amount and location of parking at the time of final site plan approval. When you look at the zoning ordinance, it kind of breaks apart once you start dealing with buildings the size of what's being asked for, because parking is generally based on square footage and the number of employees. It's also based on stats that were started back in the 60s and don't necessarily address the true needs for parking for a modern manufacturing building. So what the Planning Commission will do based on this ordinance is that we will do an inventory of the number of employees and actual need at the time of final site plan and determine what the appropriate number are and the appropriate location for those parking spots. The second is that the Planning Commission may consider the overhead doors as an architectural feature. Right now, under the architectural characters for a commercial building, commercial industrial building, overhead doors are not supposed to front the road, right? They can be an eyesore. In this specific case, they have been designed to not actually be an eyesore. They actually act as an architectural feature that helps break up the view of the building. The building itself spans nearly the entire property. All right, so it's important to have these architectural features so it's not just a blank wall going the length of the property. So what the Planning Commission has suggested as part of the language is that they may consider the overhead doors as an architectural feature. So when the final site plan comes in and they look at the final elevations, right, they can make a determination that they fall under an architectural feature and help break up the view of the building. The next item is the development must connect to municipal water when available. This is Thompson Road corridor. This is where the water line is going. We're going to be asking when additions and new construction that people be hook up to water when it's available. Number 8, which is a standard condition that is put in all new PUDs. Landscape and buffering plans shall be subject to Planning Commission approval. Right, so when we get the final site plan, we're able to require additional tweaks than we would otherwise be able to under the straight zoning. And then the 9th, which is also a standard language addition, which is the developer of the PUD shall pay Fenton Township the total cost of any necessary upgrades to the sanitary sewer system as determined by the township. So the Planning Commission has reviewed this. They have passed on a recommendation for approval.
Thanks, Mike. Treasurer Tucker, do you have anything additional from the Planning Commission?
Just a little. Mr. Miller and his fine crew of offspring were kind enough to open the building up to the Planning Commission for a tour. Mike and myself, and I think Phil Lewis, was that it, Mike? Just the 3 of us. But they took us through just to kind of show us what is going on. Part of what they were demonstrating is the fact that with modern day manufacturing techniques, it's more robotics, less people. And it was a very good example. He had a very expensive machine that literally took a piece of aluminum stock. It was probably 12 feet long by 6 feet wide, and it selected it, took it in, laser came out and put holes all over. It's just jumping all over the place, shooting holes in the thing, literally folding the edge of the things. And it came out the other end, a finished product, and that was the first time that a human would have touched the piece. And that was contrasted by another machine that was directly across the walkway, 4 feet away, where there's 4 guys loading the machine doing a similar sort of thing. It was a heavier gauge aluminum and that sort of thing. But the point was, the ordinance requires 300 and some odd parking places. That machine didn't require anything other than aluminum and a lot of money to buy it. But that was very useful. After that tour that day, I went back on site because this building is going to take up the whole thing, okay? And as Mike indicated to you, what the ordinance says, it's a design standard. It says we don't want large monolithic looking buildings. So, you know, there are different things to do to break that up, and there's some different things in the ordinance. And I went there with the purpose of trying to decide what you could do to try and break it up. Now, it's still gonna be a large industrial building, because that's what it is. But what they had done, and I'd come up with some ideas, and this is before I looked at the final site plan plans. I was kind of looking, and I was gonna bring some color across in some different spots and do some things. But when I got back and looked at the plans, what they had done is taken the glass look from the office area that's out front. You probably are all familiar with that. And they sort of replicated that in these overhead doors, which, as Mike pointed out, are normally a problem. You don't want them, they're ugly, they kind of don't work. So the site plan concept is gonna, and I don't remember if there are 3 of them on the west side, or I don't remember exactly if it's 2 or 3 or whatever it is. And they're literally gonna change the one out that's on the east side of the office area, so that whole theme will be kind of repeated through the course of the thing. So I thought that was kind of creative, and it's counterintuitive to what we typically want to do in the ordinance, but that's kind of what we're looking at from the building looks. If you've seen the office area, you know it looks good. They're going to expand that office area, but they're going to expand the manufacturing industrial area first. So you'll see it'll go west before the office goes east, because that's what's going to happen there. We did spend a lot of time talking about the parking. We don't want parking along Thompson Road. We don't want parking along Thompson Road. We don't want parking along Thompson Road. But this site is gonna have building. It's got wetlands on the north side, you know, so we're trying to retain some flexibility to be pragmatic about it. And if you have less parking, you know, sometimes that affects other parcels around it and other uses. If Tom doesn't have enough parking, it's Tom's problem. Because, you know, it's his business is gonna be there, you know, and I don't think he would spend the kind of money that's gonna take to do this if he thought he wouldn't be able to function with the level of parking that we're talking about. So parking number is reduced from the ordinance, and we are looking at what to do with a rural parking. The idea would be it wouldn't face towards Thompson Road, you know, but if you back into the spot, then they are, but you know, whatever. Yeah, you get the concept, but we're thinking, I think, about trying to soften it with some landscaping and do some things so that perhaps it isn't obvious as it might otherwise be.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. You know, we have the condition, right, that the planning commission will review the landscaping during final site plan. And that is an important part of the discussion that we had. You know, we talked about having a berm or additional trees, something that helps alleviate that view of the parking along Thompson Road. But that's something that we can address during the final site plan, and that's one of the reasons why it's included in this PUD ordinance.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I guess
Yes,
just regarding the parking ordinance, do you think we need to update that sometime to reflect the lower amount of parking needed? And then also I wanted to ask, are there other reasons for, you know, the larger parking areas, like, I don't know, emergency response or something, other than just the physical ability to house all the, you know, cars from the employees?
So I can go on a rant for a very long time on parking, but just to make it simple, parking ordinances in general, right, are based on the traffic studies that are done by the Institute of Traffic Engineers. And it basically looks at the need for the most intense use of time, right? 90% of people, it's from Black Friday to Christmas Eve. The rest of the 300 days out of the year, parking is probably, you know, 60% of what it is during that time frame. So that's why you'll find a lot of commercial uses, you know, the parking lots will be empty until you get to the holiday season. For industrial use, ordinances are reactive and not proactive, right? It's no doubt that manufacturing today is not what it was in the 60s when these ordinances started. And it's not just Fenton Township, it is everywhere. Unless there's a good reason, right, to look at it, you just leave it, right? Because, you know, industrial sites generally are larger to begin with and they have plenty of room. Well, now we're getting into the reality of manufacturing in the 21st century, and you can have a larger building with fewer employees. So should we look at it? At some point. I don't think it's a crushing concern that we do it immediately. If we find that as development along Thompson Road continues to challenge our parking ordinance, then yes. But I don't think it's necessary at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I know, Tom, you are here. Is there anything that you would like to talk about?
I think he's pretty eloquent.
He's
covered it.
Are you talking about me, Tom, or are you talking about Mike? Okay, all
Both of
right,
them,
I'm
actually.
just checking.
I think the visit was worthwhile, and, I made a comment earlier on at that first meeting we came to that, you know, we like to think that we've set a standard with that building, and we're certainly not gonna muck it up at this point. So, I'm pretty confident, I would have to be, right, it's me, but I'm pretty confident that it will be a showpiece when it's all done.
Well, you have set a standard in the dynamics of what I would like to see, or with the introduction of, you know, municipal water and other things that are planned. I think we're gonna see a different Thompson Road, and you have certainly set a standard. And I do appreciate the day that I called and you were nice enough to take me through that facility, and it's a beautiful facility, so.
Wait, he got a private tour?
I got a private tour.
Wait a minute. Have we voted yet?
I think it had something to do with vote.
He did have donuts, though. Did you
Yeah.
get donuts? Did you get donuts, Vince?
And coffee.
Oh.
Tom, you're killing me, man.
That was just for breakfast.
It was a long tour.
All right, I will now open it up for public comment. We will now open up the meeting for public comment on the proposed PUD rezoning. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this rezoning? Yes?
Yeah, go to the mic.
Would you please
Sure.
come up to the mic and state your name, please? And I would ask that you would limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Will do.
Hi, my name is Tom Donovan. I'm the president of Thompson IG. We're the neighbor directly to the west of Miller Industries, and I just want to get on public record that Miller Industries has been a great neighbor to us, and I've reviewed all the plans that were put together, and we fully support what they're doing. We fully support it. We think it's really going to upgrade to that whole area, and we're very impressed by what's been put together. And again, Thompson IG fully supports everything that Miller Industries is doing over there. Thank you.
Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this PUD? Hearing none, I'm looking out for those in attendance to Zoom. It looks like our assessor and our engineer is the only two out there. So I guess I will now close public hearing. The second reading and vote on adoption for the proposed PUD zoning amendment will be conducted at our June 21st meeting. Next under public hearings is rezoning of R22-003, the Fairways of Spring Meadows, parcel number 06-17-100-008, revised PUD conditions, public hearing, and ordinance introduction. Again, our Township Zoning Administrator, Mike Dean, will you please review?
Yeah, so you guys probably remember a couple of months ago, we saw the original PUD for this project. It is at Linden and Laring Road. It is a subdivision. When you originally saw it, we discussed a maximum number of lots of 70 and a minimum lot size of 24,000 square feet. As the developer has gone through the process and getting close to submitting for engineering and final site plan review, they've made some changes to the plan. They've reduced the number of lots from 70 to 63. And they've also reduced the minimum lot size from 24,000 to 12,000 square feet. Now, this is consistent with the open space ordinance. All right, so had they can't come in with this to begin with, this is how the ordinance would have been written. It was written at 24,000 square feet because that was what was submitted. Now, this reduction of units is not for the entire development. It is for the inner ring of parcels for this development. So your exterior parcels will be 3 to 6 acres, and then you have a pocket of interior parcels that will be the 12,000 square feet. Planning Commission also discussed sidewalks for the development at the request of the developer. And the way how it is set up is sidewalks have been proposed to round the inside of the interior ring of the road, right? So the road comes in and it loops around, and so it would only be on one side of the road. The reasoning behind that is that due to the larger size of the parcels on the exterior side of the loop, it made more sense to have it just on the interior loop due to maintaining the rural feel of the subdivision while still maintaining a safe way to provide access for the residents to walk through the subdivision. So again, the 12,000 square foot minimum lot size, that's consistent with the open space zoning ordinance, as long as you provide 20% or more open space, and that is being done. Had that been the original plan, that's what the ordinance would have been written as, and that's what would have been presented for the township board. But you know, as you go through the process, changes are made, and this is where we're at. The planning commission has passed on a recommendation for adoption of the revised ordinance.
Thanks, Mike. Treasurer Tucker, do you have any additional comments from the planning commission?
Well, sadly, I was watching James Bond perform as Macbeth when this meeting was going on, so.
Okay.
And I still don't like Shakespeare, so I think I would have rather been at this meeting. But Mike speaks the truth. Had they come in with this requirement at the beginning, this is all consistent with the ordinance. If you look at the overall density, you know, we're still, we've got 65 net acres, and you know, the units, you know, so we got more than an acre per unit. So this would be easily written in and approved under the current ordinance stuff. We just have to change the PUD to allow that to happen.
Yeah, under the preliminary review of the open space numbers, they'd be allowed 80 units or so, based on the amount of open space they have. So 63, right, as John said, right? That's a little over an acre a unit.
All right, thanks, Mike. We do have here with us tonight Mike Davidson. Is there anything that you would like to present?
He said it.
All right.
Eloquently, right?
Yes. Twice in a row.
All right. I will now open it up for public comment on the proposed PUD rezoning amendment for the Fairways of Spring Meadows. Is there anybody in the audience with us tonight that would like to speak to this PUD? The same, there is nobody that has attended or is attending via Zoom, so I will now close the public hearing. The second reading and vote on the adoption of the proposed PUD zoning amendment will be conducted at our June 21st meeting. The next business order is reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. None. Adoption of ordinances. This is proposed municipal civil infraction ordinance, introduction, and the first reading. Our Township Attorney Belzer, will you review?
Sure, what this is, it's a municipal civil infraction ordinance. And what that does, this is not something for an officer to do out on the road, but rather when there's a plea negotiation, it affords me as the prosecutor for the township to utilize this. The net effect of all that is the fine is a little less for the person, but for the township, we get more of the money instead of it going to the, wherever it goes, the judge's retirement or the library or wherever. That more of that money comes back to the township. So it's not meant for the officers out on the street to issue these to anybody, but as a plea negotiation, and it works really quite well. And so that's before you for the introduction and to be adopted. It does not do away with the criminal penalties on any of the ordinances. This is just another tool in the box, so to speak.
And the tool is to be utilized by yourself, correct?
Yes, yes.
Doesn't make any difference with the officer.
No, not with the
And
officer. And like I said, the benefit to the person that got the original ticket, the fine will be less, and the benefit to the township is we'll get more of the money.
I like that.
Treasurer says yes.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that's attending tonight that would like to speak to this proposed ordinance? Any board comment? All right, the second reading and vote on the adoption of the proposed ordinance will be conducted also at our June 21st meeting. The next order of business is unfinished business. This is resolution number 2022-12, resolution of necessity, state bank trail easements. I know we've all reviewed the memo in our packets. If you did note, the packet includes cost info. That was a question that came up at our last meeting, or at our special meeting, from 216 that was used to select the south side of Silver Lake Road for the pathway. I'm sure you've also noted that the revision to item number 6 in the resolving clause of the resolution. Are there any questions from the board? We have had a special meeting as requested. We went through that special meeting, and I don't think we should. Is there any questions from the board?
No.
All right, hearing none, resolution number 2022-12. Clerk Crew, would you like to present the resolution?
No, thank you, Mr. Broker will.
Okay.
Resolution 2022-12 determines that it is necessary to acquire easements on the properties in order to construct, install, and maintain a public non-motorized pathway which addresses an identified non-motorized deficiency within southern Genesee County, which is deemed as critical infrastructure. It acknowledges that the Southern Lakes Parks and Recreation Commission will obtain the necessary easements. It acknowledges that written good faith offers to the owners listed in Exhibit B to purchase easements have been made in accordance with the requirements of 1980 PA 87. It acknowledges the authority of the Southern Lakes Parks and Recreation Commission to institute condemnation proceedings under 1980 PA 87 as amended to acquire the necessary easements if needed. It acknowledges that the township is aware and agrees that the costs of acquiring easements will be the expense of the project, and repeals any conflicting resolutions.
I will move the resolution.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and accepted. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have some. I just wanna make this clear. Now, in Article 6, I highlighted that Fenton Township Board acknowledges the authority of the Southern Lakes Parks and Rec. Tom, what you told me is that they already have the authority to do this.
That's my understanding.
Is that
Yes,
correct?
I believe that to be true, yes.
So this is simply stating that we're not, when we do this vote, we're not legally handing anything over that they don't already have.
Correct. That's why I requested
Okay, I just wanna be
the
sure.
change in the
that-
language,
yeah.
so the board would understand that really they have the authority anyway.
I appreciate that because that's.
So it's
where-
really a vote of whether you support the pathway or not.
Okay,
It's a
thank you.
simple.
Okay,
No, it's not, Mr. Supervisor.
go ahead.
It's if we, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, I wanna hear
No,
what you
if-
say.
if they need to have their property taken away, then we should have the intestinal fortitude, I'm trying to keep it so it'll be on the
I
record,
understand.
to do it ourselves. When you give up one thing to someone, it's like my little granddaughters is a good example. If I give them one piece of candy, oh, that's fantastic. But 20 minutes later, they're back wanting the second piece of candy.
But what are we giving up?
We're giving up, they're our residents, not Southern Lakes, in my unworthy opinion, because I know how I'm being
I'm with you, I just
felt
want
about,
this
I
clear.
know, is Southern Lakes has outgrown their pants. They're doing things they are not authorized under their organizational rules. And basically, I come to the conclusion that this information was not passed on to the individuals that wrote us a letter who are our constituents. We're handing this to an organization that could only want us because we'll bring lots of money to them.
I agree, I
So,
understand.
I've said enough, it's not gonna make a difference. And right now, I predict at least a 6-1 vote. That's just my prediction.
Okay.
I just have
Any
a
other further?
quick question. So they, my understanding, which I didn't realize this at the beginning of the process, is though that we don't actually have the power to stop it. If we didn't pass this resolution, they would still be able to use, you know,
Eminent domain.
in
Eminent
this
domain
case, the
and
condemnation
condemnation.
procedures, to acquire the easement, or to forcibly acquire the easements, through a for sale, if they wanted to, right?
Does this resolution put us on the hook for 15,000?
Yes.
That was already committed a long time ago.
We
We're
already
already
made
on.
that mark a long time ago.
So, okay, so this is more just, this is kind of a feel-good thing. I mean, let's call it what it is.
I think that's exactly what we have to look at, is that it shows support for the project throughout the municipalities. And I think, you know, as far as gaining grants, and I don't wanna get into a long conversation, because we've had these meetings, but,
Yep, I
you know,
understand.
I certainly understand, you know.
Like, you know, I'm with Bob in the fact that, you know, I work for these people.
I agree.
The only people I work for. So, okay,
All right.
I just want it to be clear that when we vote on this, nothing is really changing. No authority is being, no more power is being given to somebody that they don't already have. We're not losing anything that we don't already have. And it's costing us no more money than we're already
Committed to.
apparently committed to.
That's my understanding as well.
Is that the attorney's understanding?
Right, that is,
Okay.
yeah, they have the right to petition, you know, condemn the property, go to court.
I would think that, I would think that as a, the SLPR, you know, takes every person's property into consideration when they, determine to, you know, seize this land. Because I'm really not, you know, I'm in politics 18 years and I'm not a big government fan. And I'm a retired police officer that doesn't like authority, so, just so we know where we're at. Okay.
It's not a problem, it's what makes this board great.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Yeah, but it's not worth it, so go ahead.
All right. Okay, I need
Don't
a-
laugh, Jack, I'm serious.
Oh, no, me personally, ask me after the meeting and I'll tell you, but
Okay.
yeah.
All the smiles in the audience can kiss my royal rump too. Thank you. I'd like that in the minutes.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Hearing none. Okay, I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-12 as presented.
We're already there, we're at the vote.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought,
No, we were.
oh, I'm
Motion,
sorry.
the motion
Clerk
is
Krug,
second.
will you, I apologize. The motion's been approved and seconded. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler.
Yes.
Krug votes no. Shouldn't be surprised. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrick.
No.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopel.
No.
Thanks for your support. The other two no's. It still passes 4-3.
All right, thanks, Bob. Next, order of business is new business. 2022 Thompson Road Corridor Plan, authorization to distribute draft plan for review period. Our Township Zoning Administrator, Mike Dean, will you please review?
For the past 6 months, the Planning Commission's been working on developing the Thompson Road Corridor Plan, looking at previous plans, taking public comment, and preparing a new document for the Planning Commission and the Township Board to review and approve. As part of that process, we're required to distribute a copy of the draft plan to adjacent communities, county agencies, and utilities, and we have to have a 63-day review period. What we're doing tonight is asking for the authorization to begin that process. What that would do is that it would begin the distribution of the plans tomorrow, right? We would send out notice to the appropriate communities. We would place a copy of the draft plan on the website. We'd begin the 63-day review period. The Planning Commission will hold an open house in July to review the draft plan and take comments. And then the planning commission would hold a public hearing on August 11th, after the 63-day period has closed, to review the final document and make a recommendation to the township board. Then it would be in front of the township board for final adoption at the August 23rd meeting. So when we discussed originally, the goal was to get this plan distributed out in June. It's June, and we're ready to have it distributed. So we are on target for what we originally set, and we need this authorization to stay on target.
Thanks, Mike. I want to thank the planning commission, because setting a deadline, we have a lot of changes going on to our township. We have municipal water for the first time coming to the Thompson Road corridor, and I know that the planning commission's been working very hard on this, Mike, and I want to commend you and the planning commission for staying true to the timeline, and putting in the hours that you have to look to the future of this township, so I appreciate it. Treasurer Tucker, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think everybody should understand that what's getting distributed is a draft. Okay, there are still 2 public hearings to be held. Never too late for good ideas. Okay, what we have that you're looking at in the draft is essentially an amalgamation of all the things that were out here before the Thompson Road corridor study, the master plan. What we've done is removed that kind of new area that we created with the last master plan that had mixed-use development in it. We deemed that not appropriate for Thompson Road under the current circumstances. So that's what you're looking at now, is mostly just kind of a mesh and massaging of things that are out there, but it's subject to change. And if anybody sitting here or out there has ideas that aren't represented in here, or things that they think would be good, there's still going to be an opportunity to do that. So just don't view this as the final product, because we're not there yet. We've still got input.
Correct.
So John, what is the process after this period? So you seek comment on the public hearing.
You send it out to the neighboring municipalities. Do you want the realistic approach or the theoretical approach? It sits on their
I'd like
desks.
realistic, please.
Yeah, they don't, I mean, some of them look at them, some of them have paid consultants that actually look at them. The reality is you're not gonna get much back from your surrounding neighbors. It's a good concept. The reality is, at least in the experience I've had with them, you don't get much back. So once that process is done, you know, and if you do get comments, you look at them, you know, see if you can make adjustment to it. The 2 public hearings, you know, if you get stuff in there that is useful, you know, that gets changed, but then it ultimately comes back to the board. Yeah, so.
Okay,
yeah.
so once any changes that are gathered get
Yeah.
incorporated, there's not another public session? There's
No.
not another post?
Public sessions
It
are
will
to
just
get
be
you to that
internal.
point, and then
Okay.
once it's there, and yeah, I mean, again, you'll have public comment like we do at any meeting, so if
Sure.
somebody
Yeah.
really has something that they don't like or don't like, you know, they still be able to comment, but, the idea is to get it into a form so that when it's here, it's ready for adoption.
Great, thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
Will this allow another entity who will go unnamed right now, if they want to come up Thompson Road, will they be able to condemn the property on Thompson Road?
Well, it's the same criteria. They have to have a public purpose, for what they're doing. And, you know, I mean, that statute that you're alluding to doesn't have restrictions for that 4-letter acronym or any other governmental unit that wanted us to do that sort of thing. So hypothetically, yes, that could happen. Pragmatically, I'm not aware of anything, but I
Then
don't
you
know.
haven't
I'm
read
not,
the
I'm
trail
not-
plan.
Huh?
You haven't read the trail plan then?
Yeah, well, I will tell you this, part of the Thompson Road corridor plan is gonna require pathways along the road.
Most
So-
people call them sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
Yeah, well, Mike, help me out, is it enhanced, what's the width, do we have a?
So it depends on the side of the road. I believe the north side, we're talking about a 5-foot sidewalk, and then where appropriate on the south side would be 10 foot.
Okay. So it's contemplated that there's gonna be connectivity, and the idea is nothing to do with the organization you're talking about. It's pedestrian, access, the ability to ride bikes to places that may develop along there. It's a concept separate and apart from the area on which you have concern.
Well, I'm not worried, cause it's not gonna happen till 2026 and I'll probably be dead, but just asking for the record.
Understand?
Thank you.
I was
Yes,
just wondering
Kate.
if we could have, there's a letter, from from Grand Blanc Township, about Grand Blanc Township having pulled out of the Thompson Road water main project.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
I'll address that later. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to authorize the distribution of the draft. Again, as Treasurer Tucker said, it's just a draft of the 2022 Thompson Road Corridor Plan as recommended by the Fenton Township Planning Commission.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Gopel. Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Cotrick,
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 7-0.
Thanks, Bob. Next on our new business is proposed extension of temporary moratorium on development activities Thompson Road corridor area. Mike's stayed up there and he will be going over it to review.
If you'll recall, February 15th, Township Board passed a moratorium for development activities along the Thompson Road corridor based on us going through the process of updating the corridor plan. Now, in my memo, I asked for 90 days. Now, if you can do math, 180 days from February 15th is actually August 14th. We just went through the timeline, right? We're looking to adopt the plan on August 23rd. It's after the 14th, so we do need an extension. Obviously, we do not need 90 days. I was taking 90 days from June 15th, which I was probably exhausted from the planning commission meeting the night before and didn't do my math right. So what we're really asking for is 30 days. What that does is that it gets us past the 23rd, which is where we anticipate to adopt it. But if for some reason we need more time to review the plan, but based on the comments we received, it would get us to the first meeting in September for a township board to adopt the plan. We're really close. Like I said, we're right on this timeline. You know, we shot for 180 days. We're off by 8, I think. So 30 days, when it's adopted on the 23rd, we'll cut it then. But we would ask to extend it for 30 days so everyone has a clear understanding where we are in the process.
Mike, can I would like not only the 30 days, but could you give me a date so when I make the motion?
It'd be the September 13th.
September 13th and or 30 days. Okay. Are there any?
Should be
I
one or
was
the other.
I was gonna use 30 days. I just wanted to know the date, just have it on record. All right,
Got a typo
Any-
in the memo. I guess we might wanna get corrected. It says at their February 15th, 2022 meeting, he
No.
township board, it's supposed to be the township.
oh, the
board.
township
Yep.
board. I didn't even catch
He
that.
said he was tired. I was at that meeting, he was tired. Trust me. Is there a downside if we do it for 60 days?
That's what I was thinking, just in
Or-
case we run into some scheduling glitch.
And if it's 30 days, you know,
Well, I wasn't quite finished, because the concept I'm going for here is the sooner of 60 days or the adoption of the master plan revision. Is that kosher, Jack, or is that not?
Yeah, no,
You
absolutely.
could do that?
Absolutely.
Well, then why don't we do that, just so we don't have to dance, because things never go quite as quickly as you hope they will. Although we're, as Mike points out, we're on track here.
Yeah.
So I would suggest the earlier of 60 days or the adoption of this. Mike, do you see any problem with that?
No, you know, I wrote 90, right, so.
Yeah, but you were tired, Mike. He wasn't eloquent that night, he was tired.
Mr. Tucker, would you like to make the motion?
Oh, dear Lord.
So it's in you.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we extend the current moratorium for an additional period equal to the lesser of 60 days or the date upon which the township board adopts the Thompson Road corridor, what do we call it?
Resolution
You
number
better
twenty
just have
twenty-two
a
09.
date without the alternatives.
Well, that's why I asked you before I made the motion.
Well, I
You
didn't know.
said it was okay.
Well, it's okay to extend it, but it ought to be just a date, you know, or a time, 90 days, not, or if something happens sooner.
Okay, Jack changed his mind, so I guess the motion is,
I can read the motion now.
is 60 to 60 days. You can do the motion.
All right.
Yeah.
I need
And
a motion to
If we
extend.
wanna unwind it earlier, we can do that, because that's the downside. We finish quicker. We're not trying to stop applications, you know, for any reason, so.
But it doesn't prevent us
Yeah.
if we do it in 30 days. Okay.
Are you still at that?
Yes.
You haven't changed again?
No,
Okay, all right.
All right, I need a motion to extend by 60 days the expiration date of the temporary moratorium on development activities in the Thompson Road corridor area as set forth in resolution number 2022-09, which was adopted by the Fenton Township Board on February 15th, 2022.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under business is replacement of township vehicle. Operations Manager, Broker, will you please review both the sale and the purchase?
Yes, so in 2006, the Township Board approved the purchase of a 2003 Dodge Caravan for the use of primarily the assessing department to do for their appraisal fieldwork activities. 16 years later, we finally reached the point where the cost of fixing it is more than the value of the vehicle. I think we got our money's worth, so.
Yes, we did.
Originally, my thought was, based on had negative net value, I just was gonna scrap it out. And then in the meantime, where we took it to get the price, the lady that worked at Dewey's said, I'll offer $10 over what your scrap price is. So she sent me an email and offered us $425. So in effect, I got 3 quotes, but 2 were for scrap, 1 was for purchase. But she wanted to buy it for her son to fix up, and I'd rather see somebody do that than just scrap it. So my recommendation is to sell it to Kathy Pepin for a price of as is condition, for $425.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the sale of a 2003 Dodge Caravan in an as-is condition. I don't know if we need to add any, with no implied or expressed warranties, any of that legal language. If not,
Keep the
to
lawyers out
Kathy
of this
Pepin,
one.
keep the lawyers out, to keep Kathy Pepin for a price of $425.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Group votes yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, Tom, why don't you go ahead and talk about the new vehicle?
So the vehicle we're proposing to replace the old Caravan, I did some online searches through Carfax, also contacted Canover Chevrolet, who actually spent a fair amount of time looking for us. Ultimately, the best deal we found was a 2019 Chevrolet Trax under 10,000 miles at Sarah Buick GMC in Rochester Hills. Sale price $18,387, out the door $18,666. In talking to assessing, they think this vehicle will suit their needs well. It'll get good mileage, which is very important today, and it'll be a reliable vehicle for a lot of years. So I would recommend that we purchase that as just outlined.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Did we pull a Carfax on it?
Yes. Oops, sorry, Tom.
No accidents,
No, nothing.
all
It
maintenance
was-
is in place.
Because that's a compliment to the price, is what that is, because that's low enough that I wanted to make sure we had checked that.
Yep.
Because that looks like a nice vehicle for that kind of money, so. I'm in
Well-
need of a truck, Tom, what are you doing?
Well, before is there any other questions from the board? I guess I'll pipe in. First of all, Tom did an amazing job. When he found, for the dollars, when looking at years, 1 or 2 years older, at over 20,000, new at 25 plus. You know how hard used car market is. It's hard to get a good deal. Tom did an amazing job. I'm not just saying that, he really did. It was a Sarah, it was on Al Sarah's lot. I do wanna, also, the dealerships, all of them that Tom dealt with, I'm sure did a great job, but, I made a call, to Matt Sarah, and Matt Sarah's agreed that, not only to give us the deal on the car, but to deliver it, clean it, have it all waxed, ready to go, come up, even change the plates for us and drive it up from Rochester Hills. So I do wanna thank them for, the Sarah family for, doing that for us also, so. Any other questions at all? All right, I need a motion to approve the purchase of a 219 Chevrolet Trax from Sarah Buick GMC for a total cost of $18,666 as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Cottrick,
Yes.
I vote yes, Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is proposed election worker compensation increase. Clerk Krug, did you want to review that?
Yes, this is a move that all the township cities are finding it's hard to get trained election workers or even untrained election workers. We conducted a service, we being the MTA, and in comparison to other locations, ours was considerably lower. So I'm asking that we move election chairpersons from 200 to 250, election inspectors from 150 to 2, and something we really haven't been doing. And during the survey, we discovered and discussed that we have not really been paying them for the training. And the training can last anywhere from an hour and 45 minutes to over 2 hours. So I'm asking for permission to have the trained people, and they all have to be retrained, every 2 years. So it'll be some of the experienced people, but also new. We went as far as allowing some people from Fenton and Linden to attend our training, but we had to raise our hand and swear that we would not entice those workers from Linden and Fenton to Fenton Township. So it's just a move to address the good people, because even if you look, I'll use the election inspector, that's less than 10 hours, or $10 an hour when you feel they start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's usually 9:30, quarter to 10 in the evening before we release them, so.
Well, Clerk Krug, I can tell you, I certainly, when I looked at it, upon your recommendation, I certainly support it. I think especially with what's going on with elections these days and all the controversy surrounding it, that having well-trained and fairly compensated, which isn't even fairly compensated,
Yeah.
people looking over our elections is very important. So I support it tremendously. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
I have one question.
Yes.
When we're saying elected inspector, that's every worker, right? Not necessarily the ones taking the licenses and matching it. but
It's one of the many workers, there's usually
Pointing
for
direction, that's everybody that's
giving
working
your
at the
ballot,
polls.
checking your, swiping your driver's license. Now we're taking a picture of it with
Okay.
a reader.
I just wanna make sure.
But also the
everybody's
workers
included.
working the help desk are also
That's,
paid
yeah.
that.
that's my
Yeah.
point, that's what I was getting at.
Yes,
So,
anyone working all day at the election gets the same pay.
Thank you.
And usually those jobs are rotated throughout the day to cover
Yeah.
breaks.
Breaks.
I just
And
wanna make sure that
one thing we
everybody's
have
paid.
also done, we've approached the high schools, their baccalaureate type groups and ask if there was anyone there that would like to work the election. It's no surprise that kids are better at the computers than us old folks. We did offer them their hours, community service hours, and we were graciously turned down when they found out they could make $200. They said they could get their community service in another way, so.
Well, I can't think of a better experience than to have someone, a young person, being involved in our election process, so. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve revisions to election workers' compensation as presented.
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes. Patrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopel, Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob.
If I may, right along those same lines, and I've been saying this and everybody ignores me, but this board is way, way underpaid. Way underpaid. And when you look at other communities around the county or even out of the county, the elected officials in this township are way at the bottom. And so you're giving the workers, which is appropriate, extra money. And my 2 cents is the board ought to consider some way to not pay the person, but to pay these positions that you're elected to. It's not an individual, but rather a position you're paying and showing the importance of it. And I see Mr. Gopel's ready to.
I can work in an election for a day and make more than I make in a month here.
Yeah, well, I know, I'm just saying, with the price.
Are you free?
And you get pizza, and you get pizza too.
Yeah, with the
Yeah, you
price
get
of
lunch.
gasoline and everything else, the board members here, you're losing money to be here. You're paying more in gas than you get paid from the township. And so my 2 cents, to the board is, you can do a compensation commission, you can authorize me or somebody to do a wage study. I've done that in other townships. But I just want the board and the public to understand that this board is way underpaid. And the pay ought to be somewhat comparable to other municipalities in the area and to the responsibilities of the job. It's not the individual, but the responsibility of the position. That being said, thanks.
Jack, I appreciate it. Well, one of the things when I became supervisor, it was already implemented, but Tom does a very good job. We do annual reviews. I do reviews with the 5 that come under me directly. Coming through the ranks, starting on the board and then going through planning and ZBA, I do have to say that, and this is not talking about this board, but when we pay somebody that sits on the ZBA $60 for a meeting, and I used to sometimes, when it's busy, I would go out and look at 6 properties. And that's a half a day off someone, or a day, if you're doing something else and running around. It's your gas, it's your time. That's not even counting the prep time it takes for the meetings. You're probably looking at a meeting of probably 20 hours, and they get paid $60. That probably doesn't even cover their gas. So I'm not saying I'm going to look at the board, because that's not my place. But what I will do is I would like to put together. I'm going to talk to Tom about this, is putting together maybe a committee that can take a look at least the ZBA and the Planning Commission, and take a look at the wages that they make, and be fair to the people that are putting in the time. I know we all say, Mr. Gopel, that we do this because we love the job, and we do. Well, well, we don't do it for the money.
You don't do it for the money.
Because none of us would be here. But that's something that I'll take under advisement, and we can do. I do appreciate that. All right.
I think too, if you ended up considering doing something like that, if it touched the board, I'd like it to not start until the end of the term. If it touched our board, and then also I think it might be wise to index whatever it was to inflation, so you didn't have the sort of thorny problem of deciding to give a raise to ourselves in the future, but also didn't have it just decaying down to the point where, you know, someone who maybe doesn't have the, you know, isn't privileged in all the ways that lots of us are, you know, wouldn't just not be able to serve on the board because it takes up too much time and it's paid too low of a rate.
There is a statute that lets the board establish a compensation commission, and their recommendation becomes the wages unless the board votes against it. But that's one of the things, I'll be glad to discuss that one.
Why don't you give me a call and we'll talk.
Okay,
All
okay.
right, let's move on. All right, next on our new business is a revised contract, Thompson Road Corridor Water Improvements. I'm going to review a cover letter that I received from John O'Brien, which is the Director of Water and Waste for Genesee County. I'm going to read at least the first two sentences. Again, the board has already passed the water project. This is just an update, and then I'll go over a few other things. But the letter reads, Thompson Road, Ray, Thompson Road Water Main Project. Gentlemen, this letter is to inform you that Grand Blanc Township has pulled out of the Thompson Road Water Main Project. While a smaller contributor to the project, it does have a monetary effect on the project. I have enclosed a revised cost opinion and cost distribution for your consideration. I have prepared the updated contracts for your execution. I do want to go over, I'm sure all of you have studied the spreadsheet. Tom put this spreadsheet together. The county provided one, but Tom did a lot better at being able to lay it out so the board and anyone else reading it could understand. And basically, I'll just summarize it. I don't think I have to go through each line item because it is in the packet. But Fenton Township's cost were reduced by $607,000. Mundy Township was reduced by $226,000, and all of it, the $357,861. So it really doesn't affect the project. The only thing is that in phase one, with Grand Blake's participation, we were going to tap into one of their towers, so we would have pressure. But according to John, talking to John O'Brien, that it is not going to slow the process up at all. It just puts a little bit more of a, we're going to have to fast track Blank. They decided to use their ARPA money for something else, which in turn saved our taxpayers $607,000. Is there any questions or comments from the board?
So we're gonna send them a thank you note?
It's already on its way.
That way?
I think, as you've said several times, if we're gonna do it, we gotta get it going.
We gotta get it going.
And we've told the people it's coming, so we gotta make sure it does.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. So again, really, this is no revision. There's really no difference in the actual plan, the timeline, at all. It's just basically a savings to our constituents of $607,000. If there's no other questions, I need a motion to approve the revised Thompson Road Corridor Water Project contract with Genesee County as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Reed,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Cotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
All right. Next under new business is sale of tax reverted property. Treasurer Truckle, will you please take the time and review this?
Sure. So this particular item has a long and storied history that probably most of you remember, at least the salient parts of it. The township acquired a number of units in Fenton Orchard through the tax reversion process. And it's a process, they don't pay the back taxes, there's a process that goes through, comes back to the county. And fairly early in that process, the township has the ability to take title of those. We've done that a number of years ago. This was post-2008 market meltdown, real estate market meltdown. We've been paying taxes on these units since that point in time, or at least the part when Jack came on board. I'm not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg, but we had tried to sell these a few years back. I want to say 2, maybe 3 years back, and we received at much smaller numbers than what are going on in front of the purchase agreement that we have right now. The association, or Fenton Orchards, made it known that they objected to that. I had some discussions with their attorney. I thought I had him straightened out at that point in time. But the deals went away and they came back recently. Okay, now, 2 years ago, the objections came when there was some newspaper coverage of the fact that we were selling the units. Okay, fast forward to today, we've been through a process that's probably scarred into your mind of offering these units for sale, and we've received an offer for a very substantial amount of money. There was press coverage of that. Shortly after the press coverage, Fenton Orchards took it upon themselves to record an affidavit that said that the units that we had acquired from the county and have been paying taxes on for decades don't exist. Okay? The reason they did this affidavit was to interfere with the sale that they were reading about in the newspaper. And I neglected to say a point. 2 years ago when I had these discussions, the letter I got from the association's attorney essentially says, and I'm paraphrasing so don't quote me on it, essentially says we believe it's the association that should make the money on the sale of the tax reverted property, not the township. So that, I say that simply because it puts into light what has happened now. So in addition to the recording of the affidavit to blatantly encumber and cloud the title, that was the whole point of the affidavit, is to prevent us from selling these units under the purchase agreement that you're aware of. In addition to doing that, they amended the master deed to eliminate the units that we're trying to sell. If they had bothered reading the master deed, they would have discovered that the amendment to the master deed requires the approval of Fenton Township. And I said that to their attorney, and he said it doesn't really matter, we didn't have to do it. And I said, but you did. Okay. So I've since had a couple of discussions with the same attorney that I had discussions with before, and 2 years ago, he stopped when I told him these are site condominiums. Okay, that's the way I thought I convinced him. Well, he's still taking and asserting that position right now. I do not agree with him. This is something, I know a lot about. Been doing a lot of years. I'm not always right, but George Reisig has looked at this. I don't know how many of you know George, but George is an excellent, excellent real estate attorney. George agrees with me for different reasons than the ones that I'm going to identify. So if you're going to the horse race and you're betting against Tucker and you're betting against Reisig, you're probably throwing your money away. Okay? Because I think I am as confident as anything I've been in 35 years of real estate of our collective opinion on this matter, and that is that these units didn't go away, that the master deed was amended in violation of the master deed and the appropriate rules, and that all of this that was done with the specific intention of mucking up the sale that we have of these units for the reason that they want the money for themselves. Okay? So I tried talking to them, tried rationalizing with them. I think they have left us with no alternative other than to call their bluff. They have picked the fight with us on this sale of these units, and they've done everything in their power to make sure we can't sell them. Now, I personally don't like the idea of suing an association of which 20 or so members of our township residents are members. However, I 80 times like less the idea of not collecting $400,000 for the rest of the residents of the township. So they put us in quite a difficult situation. So my suggestion, I recommended this township board, I've talked to the attorney, I've told them what was gonna happen, subject to board approval. He indicated you pass along to the president. My course of action that I would recommend to the board is that we, the township, send a letter to the association outlining our position with respect to these units and telling them what our plan is. I've already told it to them verbally. I would recommend that we copy that letter to all of the residents of the condominium. Because I personally think it's one or two officers that know about this. I don't think all of the residents do. I could be 100% wrong about this, but that's just my intuition based on a lot of years of experience. So I want our residents at least to know and have an opportunity to do something if they want to do that. If they don't, that's fine. But once that letter goes out, I would recommend that we hire George Reisig to initiate litigation, and I'm going to tell you what it's going to look like. It's going to start off with intentional interference with the contract, because that's exactly what they're doing. It's going to have a count called slander of title, because that's also what they did. There's a related count, it's called intentional interference with business relationships or expectancies, similar to some of the other stuff. There's going to be a count for declaratory relief that the units do in fact exist. There's going to be a count requiring the amendment to the master deed to be stricken because it was done without township approval. So essentially, it is to unwind everything that they have done and to collect damages for them that occurred as a result of what they intentionally did. There is no question about whether this was intentional or not. This is clearly designed to interfere with this specific transaction. It was in response to the newspaper stories on it. I don't like doing it, but I think my opinion is my duty to the rest of the residents outweighs my concern for suing an association to which 20 or 30 of our residents are members.
So that being said, if it is successful, the damages are gonna come from that entire 20 or 30 group.
Well, it depends on their insurance coverage. And I just don't know the
I'm
answer to it.
just putting this out here,
Yeah.
Dale, on it.
We'll know fairly shortly, because
Yeah.
we'll know who comes in to defend the lawsuit. If in fact it's the same law firm and attorney that I've been dealing with, they probably don't have coverage. And then they're gonna have to pass a special assessment to cover the cost of defense of that. And that's why I wanna give them a shot across the bow.
No, that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
That's
I
exactly
want
where
them
I'm
to
at.
know,
That's what we're gonna do.
you know, cause I don't think most of them know, and I might be wrong. Maybe
That'll
they do
get their
know, and they all
attention.
said, yeah, we're in on this. But the whole concept that they're arguing just cuts me to the core. Personally, I have a lot like this, okay? Now, it's a $40,000 lot that I use as a driveway. But, you know, according to the logic that these people are throwing, I can't, that's general common element. I don't own it anymore. I've been paying taxes on it. I put 40 large out for it a number of years ago. My neighbor bought a second lot on the lake. Okay, he probably paid $250 or $300 back in the day. So, you know, this is within 100 feet of my house. You can imagine if you take the rule of law that they want to have us adopt and apply it over the state of Michigan and all the lakes we have here, you know, I'm offended by it. So I personally feel that we have a duty to do something about it. I think they have intentionally provoked this fight, and that is, you know, my recommendation is we send a letter, we distribute it to the residents so that there's no surprises, and then we do what we say we're gonna do.
Would the letter come from the township or
It can
from
be
the
township's attorney. I would probably have George draft it.
George drafted.
And, you know, I think it shouldn't make a difference at all, but sometimes the letter from the lawyer gets a little more attention than
The
other
township's
things.
No,
It shouldn't, but it
George
does.
is a good guy.
George is an excellent lawyer.
I think their argument is interesting as well. So their argument is that it's been sitting there and 10 years have passed, so it becomes general common element.
Yes,
Yet they wanna sell it to a
Yes.
developer.
yes. Now think about
We
the
can't
logic
sell
here.
it to a
Yes,
developer, but they can,
'Cause
because
they-
it's common
Yeah,
element.
now think about that, because
That doesn't hold
they're
water.
gonna have to come in and get, you know, approval from the planning
Planning
commission
commission.
to bring these units back online, right?
Correct.
How
Yes.
likely do you think that's gonna happen, right?
Fairly unlikely.
Fairly unlikely, yeah, fairly unlikely.
Is there a management,
Yeah.
entity?
Yeah.
Do you know of a management entity?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're tertiarily involved. They're not the decision maker or the people taking these positions, but yes, we have contact from them. It's this attorney, and my personal opinion again, is that this attorney is doing what he's being told to do. I don't think that this association went and said, here are the facts, what do you think, you know, and we got an unbiased opinion that, yeah, these units are now general common. think that's the way it played out. I think it went something along the lines of, Township's gonna sell these units for $400,000 and we're not gonna get anything. And, you know, what can we do about it? And, you know, I think that's the way it went. We'll find out. I mean, if it goes the normal source, we'll be talking to people, but there isn't any other explanation. This was done to interfere with that contract.
And we'll be sending the letter to all of the HOA residents. I mean, we're not gonna just send them to the board, and I think that's
No,
gonna make a big difference.
that's kinda why I put that out there, cause I figured, like John said, they probably don't know, and when they get, yeah, attorney letterhead, I hate to say it, but it doesn't get your attention. So, yeah, I think that'll be.
Well,
And they might, the other 18 members or whoever that might not know about it might quash this real quick.
I
Would
think
it
that's
make a
what's-
difference if we certified those letters? So they don't get passed over as junk mail?
Well, when I do it, if I do that, and it's a nominal cost, I say nominal, but went up like everything else, I do it both ways.
Okay.
Because some people will not sign a green card.
Sign a
Okay,
green card.
I just
They'll avoid it.
I send it
wanna make
certified.
sure they all
and I
get
send it first
the
class.
information.
Yeah.
And those that refuse service, at least you'll know who they are.
Yeah.
And they'll get it, and you'll know they got a first class.
They got a first class.
Yeah. Kate, I think, was trying to jump in, Vince.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kate, I,
Just, you mentioned that we aren't sure whether or not they're insured. Could we find out short of a lawsuit? Because if so, you know, it'd be nice to be able to copy the insurance
Sure.
company with.
Yeah, I can ask them. I mean, they might know, and some of the details, the claims that I'm talking about, as you know, are a lot of them are torts. So you can actually name members of the board if you choose to do that. I haven't had that discussion with George. I'm not sure that's necessary to do that, but, that would be a different level of coverage. It'd have to be D&O coverage, you know.
Right, I just
I-
was imagining if the insurance company, you know, might know enough to sort of give them just
Yeah.
another, you know,
Right, a
tell
nudge.
them, yeah.
Yeah, sadly, I'll have to explain to you the realities of insurance company defense work, but.
Well, yeah.
It's a good theory. I like it.
And that's why I was suggesting the management entity, because they would know about the insurance.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah, I can make inquiry. Yeah, I don't know if they have anything more than general liability. I would never sit on a board without D&O, but there's a lot of these and they are not well funded.
Absolutely not.
You know, yeah,
Right.
they just, they
Why would
not
you
have
either?
that kind of coverage. So, again, another reason to tell them what's coming. So if this is not something you want, then you need to do something about it.
well, I think the letter is going to, like you said, the shot across the bow, see what their answer is, because again, I think, I agree with Treasurer Tucker. He is a great attorney, and between him and George Reisig, like he said, that would be like fighting a tidal wave. They both, have rendered a decision to me, and I agree with their decision, so, and I think it's only fair to our taxpayers and our residents that we did sell this property, we own this property, and the $400,000 comes to the township and its taxpayers. Any other questions at all? All right, would you mind, John, making the motion? You almost really did.
Yeah.
Can we take that, Tom, and turn that into a motion? Or,
If you could rephrase again, just to make sure, I don't know what, are we approving just the letter at this point, or are we approving a letter?
and the
My
follow?
intention was the follow through as well.
Yeah, I think we should do both at the same time.
That was my
The
intention.
letter and the motion for George.
Well, yeah, retention of George to initiate the litigation.
If needed, if they don't.
If they don't,
Yeah.
don't comply with the demand letter.
All right.
You need,
Anything more, Tom?
Words,
Can we
Tom?
go from that, or no?
Yeah, I think so. I'll draft something up and have John look at it before I finalize the
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
that's fine.
All right,
So that motion, I make
that motion.
I'll support that motion.
Motion's been and supported. All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Crew, will you please call
Yes,
the
sir.
roll?
Cutrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to the next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? All right, hearing none, the next business in order is public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I will now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? It looks like our assessor, Julia. Would you like to address the board tonight? We can't hear you.
You're muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, it wasn't thinking. So I got a couple things, hopefully you guys can shed some clarity for me. First thing, thank you for the board for getting and approving for a vehicle for our department. It's been needed for several years, and I'm sure our field people will very greatly appreciate that. The second thing is we talked about the moratorium earlier. We've extended that out, and as you know, I do the land division, so I'm the one that deals with people that come in. I would like to know what is the proper procedure if someone does come in and apply for a land division during this time, because I have 45 days to approve or deny. What should the proper procedure be for me in my capacity of the land divisions with this moratorium on to advise them formally?
I don't think the moratorium affects land divisions at all. You agreeing, Mike?
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
That's in the language?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to do any land divisions in that Thompson Road corridor. They put a moratorium on land divisions.
That's what our zoning administrator, Mike Deem, has stated, that you are correct. You can not do,
Just tell them you can't accept them?
allow
is that what-
any land divisions until the moratorium is over.
And just tell them we can't
That's
accept
correct.
can't accept the application until then.
Well, do I have the authority to not accept something? I mean, under the statute, it's either if someone presents me with the application, I have to approve or deny within 14 days. I mean, this isn't really a denial, but what is the formal process for me to notify these people to say, hey, so that we have it on record that I'm doing it the proper way? Should I have a standard letter when someone comes in or when I talk to them to proceed when they present me with an application of postponing that?
Well, that's completely up to you as to what you feel comfortable with. As me, I just verbally tell them that and leave it at that. But if you want your files to be documented with the letter, then by all means put together a formal letter. What is the concept, Mike, for including divisions?
So one of the things I talked about is land use development, and the thought would be if a split would occur now that's inconsistent with the future land use plan, that,
A split being inconsistent, why would it, because it's, the uses are gonna be the same whether there's one parcel or 100.
well, so if I suppose the concept would be if the plan is gonna suggest that a parcel should be for industrial or commercial as opposed to residential.
And you're breaking it up too small to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, well, that just means you gotta buy more than one parcel is all it really means, but if that's what it says, I just didn't have the language in front of me. If it says that, Julia, that's what I would do. I would just verbally tell them, look, we're under a moratorium, expires on, write the date on your desk. And then if you would wanna do a letter, you know, saying, I know you attempted to file it, but we were not authorized, the authority we gave you was the moratorium, law that the board has passed.
And I guess if it needs to say something, I mean, it can say it's a denial, but because of the moratorium, that would then not, you
Like
know,
they
we wouldn't
can
be denying it.
reapply after
Right.
the moratorium.
Okay, well, cause that's what we have, when they either divide or split, they're doing it in a time-sensitive situation where they're trying to build a new, and they want to get a permit after approval, so this is gonna delay them as well, residents in the area.
But you
Now, I'm
understand,
not sure that I agree with Mike on some of the things, because the zoning is not changing in most of these areas. So my duty is to divide it based on what the current zoning is, not what's gonna happen in the future. So, to my knowledge, I'm not sure that we're arbitrarily changing people's zonings. But that answers that question, so at least I know now what to do, and then if there becomes a serious situation, we'll just deal with it as it comes along, one by one,
Are
as
you
an individual situation.
are you getting a backlog of these, Julia?
I've got a few, but I've done what you all suggested earlier when it was put on till June, and now we're pushing it back, so I'm gonna have people coming back to me, and, you know, now we're pushing them off again. I don't really like that situation when I have to deal with these people of, oh, well, it's delayed again, and it's delayed again, and it's delayed again. I wanted to have an answer for them of what and how to do, because like I said, most people that are requesting these are requesting them because 9 times out of 10, it's an accessory building, and they don't have enough land where they have to combine the land, or they're splitting the land, and they wanna get a permit because they wanna get their building going, and this is delaying their process as well.
They can't get a permit anyway, so can they?
Well, that's the that's the point of the
That's the
moratorium.
Right, exactly, so even if they got the split, they still couldn't build anything.
So it's really not slowing them down that, I
Right.
can say they can't do
Not
anything.
beyond,
as long
not
as
beyond what
it's
the
already-
moratorium has already done.
Right.
Right.
So we're not allowing any permits in the Thompson Road corridor area?
Well, there's a few exceptions in the moratorium ordinance itself, but generally that is correct.
Except the ones that already have applications, correct?
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things that were accepted, I don't remember the
Nobody
details.
will.
Okay, so that answers my question. Then kind of along the same lines, on the Fenton Orchards condo, we've got where they filed the 4th Amendment to the master deed. I know that we don't agree with it, but it's a filing and an amendment that's out there. And under my statutes, you know, when they say when those are filed, then I need to act upon them. Do we need to formally do something, on record as an affidavit, as like they did, showing on record and recorded that we are in disagreement with that amendment, so that I'm not required to act upon that amendment?
No, that just mucks up record title even more than it already is right now. We'll deal with it in litigation if they don't deal with it before that. And there'll be a court order as a result of that that'll clean it up.
Okay. And that was all I had.
All right, is there anyone else in attendance or that has joined us via Zoom that would like to speak to the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Hearing none, it is about 7:58 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.